Okay, in this video we're going to be continuing our exploration of the View tab right over here. We've already looked at workbook views and show. Now we're going to check out zoom, windows, and macros. And I'm not going to go too far into macros because we have a whole section on that, but I'll touch on it a little bit. So let's start with zoom. And let me jump into a sheet with some data in it. So we're back in our sales rep sheet. Zoom is pretty straightforward. You click on the zoom button and you can pick your level of magnification. So if you go to 200, it'll double it in size, bring it way in there. Or you can go all the way down to say 25. Makes it easier to see the big picture. You can do fit selection, I'll show you that in just a second. Or you can go custom and you can pick your percentage. So if we want 65%, click OK. Now the fit selection, you just select an area. Let's say we want to look at Bob, Carol, and Casey for the months of January, February, March, and April. Go to zoom, click fit selection, click OK, and it fills the entire screen with what we've selected. Okay. If you want to restore it to 100%, you just click the 100% button. That makes it basically what I would call normal. And then you also have zoom to selection here without clicking into that and going to there. You just click to that and it'll drop you in there. Now you also have a zoom control down in the lower right hand corner of the screen down here. You can just grab it and slide it back and forth. Or you can click the minus button or the plus button and do that. And I'll share with you a little piece of humor from the Microsoft Corporation. When you hover over the zoom, it says zoom to the level that's right for you. For zoomier zooming, use the controls in the status bar. Love that, zoomier zooming. So this is how you get zoomier zooming. More fun. Okay, before I make you dizzy, I'll stop. And let's talk about the window view. Well, first let's go back to 100% and talk about window view. The window view allows you actually some really useful working options. The first one is new window. You just click on new window, brings up an entirely new window. So now I have two windows of the same sheet open. And you can see that when I minimize this, I'm still in it. And watch, if I click into the middle of this one, or better yet, so you can see it well, I'll select the middle here, and then I can go to the other one and go on that, and I'm still selected up here. Okay, so that's the same workbook in two different windows. Go back to view and I'll show you what you can do with that. So you can go to arrange all, and you have some choices here. You can tile the windows, you can arrange them horizontally, vertically, cascade. And you can also select this box to do only the windows of the active workbook. So let's go ahead and do that. And we'll tile them and click OK. So now we have that same window open in two side-by-side workbooks. But it is the same workbook. And you'll notice if I go in and change this number, right now Bob's February sales are 508. Let's just change them to 2,000. Notice as I type it in this window, it also changes in the workbook in this window because they're the same workbook. But where this can be useful is if you want to look at different things at the same time. So for instance, if I want to go over here and look at the Spark charts at the same time that I'm looking at the names and the numbers from January, I can. Okay, and you'll notice too, like all of our tools are all shrunken down because we just have half-size windows, but that's okay. Most of the tools are still there. Or you can always just maximize one of the windows and get to your full range of tools. So that was our new window tab. If I select back into that, let's talk more about the arrange all. Because you can do tiled, you can do horizontal, show you what that looks like. So that was one workbook on top of the other. So again, on this one I could be looking at, say, like the top rows, and on this one I could be down here looking at the bottom rows. And you could do some other things, like you can minimize the ribbons by doing that button there. to give you more space to work. If you need to bring the ribbon back, then you go back in here and you say uncollapse the ribbon and right click and uncollapse the ribbon. So you can bring that back. Let's look at some different arrangements. So that's horizontal. We can do vertical. So that's going to do them side by side. Okay, let me show you another thing with the Arrange All button. Okay, first I'm going to close down our second copy of this same workbook. And I'm going to maximize this one and go back to our normal view here. I'm going to open up a couple of other windows that I have. Okay, now I've got 3 windows open right now, all different workbooks. I'm going to go to Arrange All, and I'm going to take off the Windows of Active workbook. So now it's going to arrange all of the workbooks that I have open, whether they're related or not, and it's going to arrange them vertically. So click OK. So this is great if you have information in different workbooks that you need to compare. And this isn't obviously a great example because these are related, but if this one was on the kitchen remodel cost, this one is on our employee phone list, and this one is on our sales reps, if there was data from those things that we needed to visually compare or to see side by side, this would be the way to do it. We could also go into one of these, go back to Arrange, and we could do it tiled, and click OK. Now it's going to take those 3 windows and it's going to fit them all in as tiles. So these are just different ways of working with your windows to make it easier to work. Now, one thing to keep in mind, which a lot of people will struggle with, is if, for instance, let's go ahead and maximize this one, and then I'm going to minimize this one. Okay, so it's now minimized down on the bar below. So now I only have 2 that are up and showing. If I go to Arrange All, and I go to Tiled, and I click OK, only the 2 that are active or maximized are going to show. Okay? So if I wanted to show all 3 tiled, then I have to go into the one that I'm missing, open it up, go back into Arrange All, go to Tiled, click OK, and now it includes all 3. Okay, and the last one that you have, the last option, is Cascade. Click on that and click OK, and now it layers them on top of each other. See, so they're all layered. Okay. So let's go back to our View tab. That takes care of the new window. That's where you create a new window from the same workbook. We've looked at Arrange All, which is where you can arrange the workbooks to make them easier to use and look at. Let's talk about Freeze Panes. This is a really cool one. And for this one, I'm going to go to a different tab. This one. Freeze Panes is great when you have headers and a column down the left that you want to always be able to see. So, for instance, these sales rep names over here, as I scroll to the right, they disappear. So when I'm getting into data that's over this way, I lose the view of that. And that's a problem. And the same thing happens with Arrange when you scroll down, but in the case of a table, when you scroll down, if you're selected in the table, they'll scroll with you in a table, see? As I go down, they scroll with me. So they stick to the top. But if this was just Arrange, then those wouldn't stick to the top. So the way to fix that is to go to Freeze Panes. So we see Freeze Panes, and we can freeze all of them based on where we're selected. We can freeze just the top row or just the first column. So first, let me show you how to freeze the top row. Just click on that. You don't see any difference yet, but as I scroll down, see how they're locked to the top, which makes it really handy when you have huge long lists of data, because as you scroll down, you're not going to lose track of which month you're looking at. To get rid of that, you just go in and say Unfreeze Panes, and now it's back to normal. Okay. Now if I want to freeze just the sales rep names, I go to Freeze Panes and I say Freeze First Column. You can see that little line appeared. Now as I scroll to the right, those stay right there. So as I'm looking at the month of August, I can go down and say 725. Okay, that's Jane. Okay, so that's really helpful. And then finally, let's go and select, actually let me show you a different example real quick. This one. Let's go ahead and put our cursor right here, and we're going to do freeze panes, and we're going to say freeze all panes. Actually, sorry, let's put our cursor right here. We're going to freeze all panes with the top button. That freezes it right where your cursor is. See the line going this way and the line going this way? And this is a small example, so it doesn't really matter, but you'll see as we scroll, see how the materials list stays locked and the rest of the range scrolls. When we go to the side, same with the top, it's going to stay locked right where this line is. So our headers stay locked, and as we scroll, it just rolls right up into it. Okay? And then again, to get rid of that, you just say unfreeze panes, and it will behave normally as you scroll. Okay? Another thing that we can do is we can split the whole window into multiple windows within one window. So let's go to this example. It's going to show up better. If I select right here and I go to split, it splits the window right there. So now you see I have the same information, the same workbook in both of these panes. Especially if I scroll up here, you'll be able to see it better. See, we've got Bob, Carol, and Casey. We've got Bob, Carol, and Casey. Same windows, but we can scroll them separately and look at them right within the same window. So that's similar to when you arrange them horizontally, but this is the same workbook within the same window. Okay, so you just click this to unsplit it. You can also split it like 4 ways. If you click right in the middle here and say split, so now we have it split vertically, but we also have another scroll bar here, it's split horizontally. See, so if I scroll both sides of this, I've got both of the things here. So those are just different ways to look at it so you can get to your data and see your data more easily. Then again, to undo it, you just hit split again. Okay, next one is hide. If I click hide, it just hides the window that I was just on. It just disappears, which can be helpful if you have a workbook with lots of calculations or behind the scenes data that you don't want someone seeing, and then another one that is more of like a user interface. Okay, and then if you want to unhide it, you just go to unhide. It's going to give you this dialog box to let you choose which one you want to unhide. You select on it and click OK. Now you'll also notice that the personal workbook is here. This is where, for instance, all of your macros that you store into the personal workbook will be stored. And you can go in and open that way to access it. But we're going to reopen this worksheet that we just hid by selecting it and clicking OK. And there it is back in view again. If you want to view 2 windows together and be able to scroll through them at the same rate, you can go to View Side by Side, select the other workbook that you want to compare it to, and click OK, and then you'll get them compared to each other. And you would think that when it says side by side, they would be to the left and to the right, but a lot of times it ends up being horizontal. But the cool part is when you have synchronous scrolling selected here, if you scroll through one of them, you'll see that it automatically scrolls through the other one. So that's just another way to kind of work with your data together when it's in different workbooks. And then if you hit on reset window position, it'll flip them. So now the one that was on the bottom is on top, and the one that was on top is on bottom. Okay. Then you can also turn off synchronous scrolling if you want. There we go. So it's not highlighted. And as you scroll, now they'll scroll independently. And then you can also turn off the view side by side just by clicking that. That'll bring you back to your normal window. Okay, so that's the window. And then the switch windows is pretty straightforward. You just select that and you can pick which window you want to look at. So if I want to go to that one, I can do that and go to this one, or I can go to that one. Okay, so that's the window group. And then macros, we're not going to get into macros in this video because the developer tab has all the stuff for macros. But just know that in the View tab, you can go here and you can get into your macros. You can view your macros, you can record a macro, and you can switch to relative references, which we'll talk more about in the macros section, because we also have a dedicated macros section for this course, and we'll also talk about it when we explore the Developer tab. So those are the workbook views, the Show, Zoom, Window, and Macros buttons on the View tab.